Hi all, it is your crazy psychology teacher here with a little video explaining a little bit better the Piaget cognitive stages. And yes, I'm not French, so I'm probably never pronouncing his name correctly, but he would know anyway, so that's fine. So when we're talking about cognitive development, all right, basically this whole idea is similar to that example I gave you way back whenever we were there, talking about how a baby understands the concept of a dog. All right, so Piaget's word for concepts are schemas. And so to him, we have to form schemas, ideas in our mind. They're concepts that we then take in information and make it fit or make it not fit. So let's say, for example, I have this thing that I say is a Zaix, and I say, hey, I'm going to plug in my Zaix, and there it is. Here it is. See it? And I wanted you to explain it to somebody. You want to tell somebody there in your house, hey, you know, my crazy, she's losing it even worse. What the heck is this thing? If you wanted to know more about it, what would you do? You probably ask me questions. You might ask me what it looks like, and I'll say, okay, it's black, and it's a cube, and it's like 2 by 2 by 2. And I might ask, hey, what does it do? Well, it ionizes negative vibrations. All of that, that's fine. So now you know a little bit more about it. A minute ago, you had no schema for Zaix. Now, you kind of do. All right. The other thing that you're doing with this new information is assimilating it and accommodating it. You're comparing it, maybe unconsciously, to stuff that's going on and what you already know. So, for example, if you're probably thinking somewhere, is my Zaix like a toaster? Is my Zaix sort of like an air purifier? You're comparing it. If it fits one of those categories, then you put it in there. If it doesn't, you make a new one. This is the whole process of cognition in Piaget's idea. The thing is, though, we have to process information, make those schemas, change those schemas differently depending on our developmental stage. Babies aren't going to be able to process information in the same way as grandma and grandpa, or you guys. All right, so that's where he comes up with his stages. All right, so let's just briefly talk about what those mean. All right, so a baby. Why would I not give a baby a really nice, hold on, find my props, cool book like this? All right, what would a baby do with this? They're going to rip it. They're going to tear it. They're going to put it in their mouth. They're going to throw it. They don't know what this is. They have no schema for this. All right, babies can't learn the way you just learned about my Zaix. You asked questions. Babies can't do that. So what do? They learn about things by using their senses and their motor skills. That's why Piaget called this the sensorimotor stage. They put things in their mouths. They smell them. They taste them. They touch them. They throw them. How would a baby figure out that this is different from a ball? Because if I throw this, it just sits there. If I throw a ball, it's going to roll. So that's how babies learn. The end of this sensorimotor stage is around age 1 to 2. The milestone that makes this different is something called object permanence. If I took a toy that my baby was playing with, we got a nice little Funko character. So baby's playing with this, and I cover it up. What is a 6-month-old going to do? He's going to cry because he thinks it's gone. An older child is going to do what? They're going to pull my hand away, look for it, because they'll know it still exists. This is the concept of object permanence, knowing that things exist even when you can't see them. Another main term we should mention here is the idea of what Piaget calls egocentrism. Egocentrism is the understanding or the belief that everything revolves around you. Babies are completely egocentric. They don't understand other people's points of view. As we get older, we should be able to do that better. Get a little bit farther away from egocentrism. So an older person would know that this exists whether they see it or not. Just because I put it over here and cover it up doesn't mean it's gone. Okay? You know it's still there. Babies wouldn't. That's the milestone. Once a baby understands that, they move into what Piaget called pre-operational stage of cognition. All right? What's different about a preschooler? This is ages around 2 to 7. A preschooler, you give them a book like this, they know what it is. They know it represents something. It's a story. These are not just random colors. They mean something. The little squiggly lines in here are words that mean something. This is symbolic thinking. Children at this age can learn through language. If I tell a 6-month-old baby, hey kid, I'm going out and get you a new toy, he doesn't know what I mean. If I say that to a 4-year-old, he certainly does. Even though I can't do that right now, because probably no stores would be open to do that. But he would understand me. Symbolic thought, language, reading, understanding pictures. Also, fantasy play. Fantasy in pretend play is symbolic. All right. Again, babies are just going to take my little toys here, and what are they going to do? They're just, babies will eat them, throw them, mouth them, whatever. But preschoolers, they'll pretend they can talk and they play. Preschoolers do pretend play. They dress up. All right, if you take a toddler and you put them in a toy kitchen set, what do? They just throw things around, sit in it, whatever. But preschoolers pretend. They can pretend they're cooking. They can pretend whatever. That's symbolic thinking. All right, but this symbolic thinking is also very fantastical. They don't understand reality versus fantasy. If you ask a preschooler, what do you want to be when you grow up? They want to be Superman or they want to be a princess. There's no reality basis there. That's part of this fantasy kind of thinking. All right. We move up into elementary school age. Elementary school age are in the concrete operational stage. This is where they are better able to manipulate information. Reversibility, for example. A preschooler doesn't understand that concept. For example, if you think about death, preschoolers don't get it. To them, something dead can come back. They don't understand that's final. Elementary school kids can do that. They should be able to understand that. They understand what's reversible, what is not. They understand concepts of something called centration. For example, if I can find my little, without spilling this for you. All right, let's say I have 2 containers of water. All right. And we're just going to say, for the sake of this this experiment or whatever this is, that these are equal. If you see me take one of those and pour it into this, and now I say which of these has more, you'll know it's the same. You saw me do it. It's not a magic trick. I can't do those. All right. A preschooler wouldn't get that because that's a volume problem. You have to understand height, width, depth. Babies can't do that. Preschoolers can't do it. Elementary school age, 7 to 12, kids in the concrete operational stage should be able to do that. Here's another example. If you ask a preschooler or say to them, hey, you know what? Your dad is my brother or is my uncle or whatever. They don't get that. Daddy can only be, we have a friend visiting. This is Blizzard. She's very interested in John Piaget. So anyway, back to our value. So older children understand that. Remember when we were sorting all those animal pictures? We could say, for example, that a cat is a mammal. It's also a domestic animal. All right, we understand that. Preschoolers don't get it. They can only look at one thing at a time. Concrete operational kids can do it. They can do basic math, but it has to be concrete. 1 + 1 is 2. All right. Piaget would say that something like algebra, which is abstract, doesn't happen until a formal operational stage, which is around age 12, which probably, not coincidentally, is when you started to learn the idea of algebra. If I say, come up here and pick up one of my Motley Crue Funkos, you can pick one. But if I say, come up here and pick X number of them out, you can't do it. That's abstract. All right? So older children, by the age of around 12, can start doing that. Formal operational stage, the last stage of cognitive thought in Piaget's ideas, is hypothetical, logical, deductive. All right, if we were in class, I would play a game of 20 questions with you, and we can't really do that since you can't answer me. All right, but think about how you play 20 questions. All right, if I were thinking of a famous person and ask you to come up with it by asking me questions, I could say yes or no. That is process of elimination. Really what it is deductive reasoning. You would systematically start eliminating ideas. Oh, sorry. Older kids can do that. Preschoolers can't. That's formal operational thought. If I tell a preschooler, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? Or I ask them that and they say they want to be Superman, that's really cute. But for an older child, that would be ridiculous. If a high school student tells somebody they wanted to be Superman, they're probably getting a trip to the psychologist for some assessment. All right. So there in a nutshell are Piaget stages. Hopefully that's a better explanation then. I know some of you don't have your books, but feel free to Google things and let me know if you're stuck. You guys, of course, are on form operational, so I know that you can handle it. All right, stay well, and I will be back another day with another video for your viewing pleasure.